about security. I think Laure wanted to spend a few minutes on that, and then good news is that we'll have a few minutes to open the floor to questions, because I'm sure you have many questions and you must feel frustrated that I'm asking all the questions. So, Laure.
Yeah, so I don't know whether I need to say anything about security, because a lot have already been said. Just a very quick presentation. I'm a lawyer. I'm a very classic lawyer at the beginning, and then because I'm working in the IT industry, I became very interested by all the subject, and some products in the company I'm working with are on the security area. So that doesn't give me probably so much credit to talk about cybersecurity, but still I'm trying to understand what we are selling at CA Technologies. What I wanted briefly to say about cybersecurity is, on my view, what is interesting is to talk about why cybersecurity is essential for big data, but also in a second time, why big data is essential for cybersecurity. So as I said, we hear a lot this morning, specifically in that roundtable, about the fact that security is key for customers, for citizens, so in general for all individuals. And the reason, the first reason is why. I mean, why do we care about security? I think we do care because data, wherever they are private or not, because we also made the distinction today. So they can be private, they can be not private, whatever. They have some value. And the risk is that in the digital world, they can be destroyed, they can be disclosed, or they can be modified. That's a big issue. So the cybersecurity process or the cybersecurity tools are really trying to address all the questions around what we call very classically integrity, confidentiality, and availability to answer to those questions of being destroyed, disclosed, or modified. So that's really the three pillars of the cybersecurity. And I'm not going to teach you about cybersecurity today because I will be a little like Omri today, so not really talking about the subject in detail, and it's not a class about cybersecurity. It's really talking about how cybersecurity and big data are working together. So, as you very well said, there is probably no digital economy, or more than economy. I'm talking more about business usually, but no digital world without strong cybersecurity. So the reason why it has become very important, it's obviously because big data or data in general have entered into our life. There is nothing we do without data today. It is something that was surely identified also by governments, to try to be just very shortly international. We talked this morning a lot about French law, about European law, but you probably know that that's an international good subject. There are a lot of new regulation all over the world. I think if you look back the last 2 years, we saw a lot of new regulation coming in. Russia and China are very well known because they're very restrictive, but there are so many other places like in Asia, Korea, Japan, in Latin America, Brazil, and so many other countries. So in a lot of places and more, so we just in the middle of it probably, you can see some new regulation. And the problem we do have, and now I'm accepting Europe, is that there is no so much globalization on those regulations. They're very different from a place to another, and that make us in a sort of a paradoxical system where we talk more and more about globalization, and all those tools are pushing. You talk about artificial intelligence. So whatever we use as tool, they have to run with international data flows, and specifically cloud is also a very good example, because you can have server in different places, but globally, when you manage your server, even at Microsoft, you might be able to transfer data from a place to another, just from a management perspective. And the question, which is very accurate, very obviously difficult to resolve, is that this international data flow is now going to be more and more difficult because of all those regulations in so many places. And taking, again, China and Russia, because they are a very good example on the fact that that's going to be more and more difficult in the future to have the international data flow. So just to highlight the fact that we are in sort of a paradoxal world where we are more and more global, but there is more and more national restriction on security for good reason, because, as we said, we really need to secure this area, but also that has some very negative impact. So that's the first paradox I wanted just to disclose to you, having no solution today, talking at this moment. And also, one other thing, which is, you talk about the fourth revolution, I call it the fifth revolution, because my first revolution is the discovery of fire. I think that's the most interesting one. That's the reason why I was here today, able to eat more and better because of the fire. Anyway, so the fifth revolution we are in today is going with the invention of what we call also the third platform, which is what I would say business people call the apps economy. And with the apps economy, it's not only people talking to people, it's really machine talking to machine, it's peer-to-peer mode, it's Internet of Things, and all those new technology are driving us to a world where the security aspects are changing a little. As you can imagine, and it's a classic example that everybody's taking, it could be very dangerous to take control of a plane. And that's typically one good example on why cybersecurity is key with Internet of Things, but that could be something else, that could be anything. For that, there are some new tools coming, and one of the way to handle cybersecurity is regulation. We talk about it with the limit of having all those national regulatory regime, but it's also tools. So the industry is evaluating very, very quickly around specifically authentication, because it's more and more important to know who you're talking to, specifically when we are on the Internet of Things area. So there are some legal tools and there are some IT tools that could really help for cybersecurity to protect the digital economy. Also, the level of service you can provide to your customer is absolutely key, and that's also something that is part of what we call today the cybersecurity. So again, I think we are not that good in cybersecurity, but the perception is that we are doing much better globally. Today we can consider that 33%, it's data from some UK consulting company, and I don't know whether very accurate, but we can say that almost 33% of the breaches are fixed. So it's not a lot, but it's much better than it was even 6 months ago. So there are some progresses, and I think legal and IT tools are a great way to handle cybersecurity aspects. Whatever, as I said, big data cannot run without cybersecurity, but also cybersecurity cannot be successful the way it works without the big data technologies. Yesterday, Professor Florence Zell really explained very well to us that there are like 4 functions of algorithms: the descriptive analytics, the diagnostic analytics, the predictive analytics. I'm quoting you, Florence, and the prescriptive. And I think what is very interesting with big data, talking about cybersecurity, is that big data, specifically in the function of being predictive and being prescriptive, can really improve the situation of the security. Why? First, because the predictive work that big data can provide can really, like for any type of crimes, not only cybersecurity crime, but today we're talking about that. So big data can prevent crime because algorithms can calculate and make some very good stats to understand when and where a crime could occur. So by using those tools, and that's something very new, but it's the new tendency, I would say, of the cybersecurity world, is to look at how big data are going to help and provide some good tools to fight against cybercrime. And I go also to the predictive area you mentioned yesterday. So predictive analytics is really to try to understand not only what will happen, but really, what should I do? So it's not even preventive. It's changing my behavior to be sure things are not happening. And the big data here, again, on the cybersecurity arena, could help by pushing the behavior to be changed, by creating some trainings, creating some more conscience about how to be better protected in the cybersecurity area. We know that the breaches that are really malicious are less than 20% of the cases. So for the 80% not being malicious, predictive analytics could be really helpful. I'm going to stop here because I would love to hear some questions, and I look at Beatrice, who is trying to send me some messages. Just to conclude, as you said, the question which is very important is I'm still a lawyer, so going back to liability, companies are can be victim of attacks, but as they are responsible by law about the private data they're collecting, they have to make it better. They have no choice. So they can't stay like victim people. So they have to take their destiny and decide that because they can be liable, they have to make something.
Thank you very much, Laure. And thank you especially for finishing this panel discussion on a positive note to remind us that as with any technology, there's always a balance to reach between the pros and cons, obviously, and to remind us that actually data analytics could be the best way for the individuals to be empowered and to reach this goal of protection and security. Of course, with many challenges, but as long as we keep the control, that should be a top priority.